Hey y'all, I'm Kate Sanchez, editor-in-chief of ButWhyThough.net, and I'm here to talk with you about our hands-on preview with Dune Awakening, Funcom's latest survival MMO. But first, let's take a look at what you can expect at the beginning of the game.
Show yourself, child. Come here. Kneel. Put your hand in the box. I hold at your neck the Gom Jabbar, the high-handed enemy. Don't pull away or you will die. Great plots are afoot in the Imperium, and the currents of intrigue run deeply. Arrakis is the key. And the Fremen are missing. You will go to Arrakis as our agent, prisoner. You have one task. Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper. Everything depends on this. Do you understand? Good, you speak truth. But here's the rest of it. There is only one rule. Keep your hand in the box and live. Withdraw it and die. An animal would gnaw off its own hand to escape the pain. And we can only be served by humans. Find the Fremen. Wake the sleeper. You will know when it is done.
The world of Frank Herbert's Dune series is one of the best, most complex, and fleshed-out universes in fiction. The sci-fi book series has inspired countless homages, replicas, and parodies, as well as several adaptations in film, TV, comics, and video games. After Denis Villeneuve proved that Dune could successfully be adapted into a film or two, and actually be a film that drew both critics and audiences in, now it's time to put this fictional world to the test and make it an immersive place people want to spend hours and hours with. That is the challenge that Dune Awakening, the upcoming survival MMO developed and published by Funcom, is facing, making the desert world of Arrakis one people will crave to return to. Reader, after spending about 6 hours in Arrakis during a hands-on preview of Dune Awakening, we have to say that this game nails the look and feel of Herbert's world in a way that no other adaptation has been able to achieve so far. Dune Awakening is a survival MMO taking place in an alternate timeline where Paul Atreides is never born, and Lady Jessica gives birth to a daughter instead. The Atreides aren't wiped out, but are instead engaged in a war of assassins with House Harkonnen in Arrakis. After spending time creating your character with possibly the coolest customization option in the game, being the small but significant ability to age your character's tattoos, and choosing a background that places you either in the middle of the Atreides Harkonnen conflict or with one of the sides. You wake up in the desert where you have to fight to survive. While the survival mechanics are familiar, it is the Dune flavor that makes this game unique and a thrill to play. There is no need to gather wood or food, as the game focuses on just two things: water and shelter from the killer sun of Arrakis. The longer you're exposed to the sun, the quicker you burn through your supply of water, and when that is depleted, so goes your health bar. Given how little refuge there is from the sun when you're traversing the open desert, exploration and movement is always a gamble in this game. Even at night, there are other dangers like the Sardaukar. As soon as the sun drops, ships start patrolling the desert, and if one of their spotlights catches you, it suspends you in air for a bit while Sardaukar troops drop down and hunt you down. Though the first few hours of the game make it easy enough to stay on top of your vitals, it is nevertheless quite immersive and distressfully thrilling when you suddenly find yourself waking in the open desert and you get the warning that you're getting dehydrated and have no supplies at hand. Sure, you can run, but that attracts the worm. And if there's anything more dangerous than dehydration, it's the sandworm. There are many ways to gather water, but in the earliest hours of the game, you rely a lot on drinking the blood of your vanquished foes. Yes, really. Collect the water from the desert flora, throughout found Arrakis, or, go the blood route. It's totally up to you. But you did hear me right. There are, in fact, plants on Arrakis. That's the first hint that the world of Dune Awakening is different than the Arrakis that we see in the movies and much closer to Herbert's original writings about the desert planet. There are diverse biomes here, and rather than a desolated and barren wasteland, it is a beautiful place with plenty of variety in the landscapes and even flora. More reminiscent of the deserts of Arizona in the United States, for example. Indeed, the desert of Dune Awakening looks absolutely stunning, and with sand shifting colors depending on the light and the location, rock formations and mountains breaking up the desert, quicksands, dunes, and more, this is possibly the most unique landscape that we've been able to see. During our preview, it was the Graven that took the cake when it comes to the landscape. A large area of vertical caverns, rocky formation, and drops hundreds of feet tall. It looks like a giant rocky trench in the middle of the desert, one that you really need to either use a suspensor or an ornithopter to navigate properly, as it goes on for miles and miles and miles and miles. It is a testament to the art department of Dune Awakening that the game looks simultaneously sci-fi, but also recognizable, a lived-in world that feels real, but also extremely alien. Of course, no Dune game would be complete without the Shai Hulud. And Dune Awakening has a great sandworm design that's closer to John Schroner's original illustrations, while still being unique to this portrayal of Herbert's universe. Though I did not get to see the late game deep desert worms, that are capable of swallowing an entire spice harvester. The early game worms are still quite menacing and visually stunning at the same time. Most importantly, there is a good balance in how quickly you attract a worm when walking in the open desert, with enough warnings about the noise and vibrations you're making to give you a heads up to stop or to run towards safety when the worm arrives. At least in my experience, it was kind of hard to get a worm to come at you, at least when you're just running through an open desert. If you use a larger vehicle, however, your chance to encounter a shy halud is higher, but unless you're harvesting spice or using an ornithopter that's close to the ground, you won't be losing all of your loot every 15 minutes. Yes, you will lose all of your stuff. Though Dune Awakening only has you lose a percentage of your resources when you die, if Shy Halud kills you, you lose absolutely everything permanently. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, do not get your stuff back. At a presentation shortly before playing the game, creative director Joel Bylos ran through what the developers see as the stages of playing the game, from the early stuff that we got to experience to the late game mechanics. As they explained it, the more you play the game, the more important it becomes to rely on the community around you and other players. In the 6 or so hours that I got to play, this rang true, as there wasn't really anything in the early stage that you really couldn't do on your own. Still, according to developers and what we saw in the late game, the politics of Dune become increasingly more important as time goes on. Joining a faction can literally change the game, as there is a mechanic wherein every week the Landshroud vote to implement some change on Arrakis, and the faction that has gained the most favor from the houses of Landshroud get to influence the vote in their favor, earning things like how much loot there will be on PvP areas and getting discounts for crafting. When it comes to gameplay, the most interesting and fun part of Dune Awakening is its combat. One thing that makes Herbert's world unique is its relative lack of guns. Because of the Holtzman shields, the majority of the action in the Dune series is swordplay, which can be lots of fun, but not so much if your preferred way of playing is ranged. The solution that the developers at Funcom found is simple and yet very elegant. There are a number of abilities you can use to bridge the gap between ranged and melee that come from the big schools in the lore: Swordmaster, Bene Gesserit, Mentats, among others. You can use the voice to force an enemy to get closer to you, while using another ability to appear invisible to enemies. You can employ small drones and turrets, or use a grappling hook to cut the distance between you and an enemy. These feel distinctively like Dune in a way that builds immersion without breaking the lore. And even if we didn't get a shield in the time we got to play, we did encounter a couple of enemies wearing them, and maneuvering around a Holtzman shield is challenging and fun. Trying to stun the enemy in order to go from a slow blade that can penetrate the shield is an art.
Taiba. The weight of a kindly god is a fearful thing. Do you understand, Wally? Our God gave us the burning eyes of Allat and the words of the Kitab al-Ibar. Rest in black shade. Be la kaifa. Defiance leads to thought. Who is it that thinks? Those who suffer. Remember how be la kaifa.
Still there, off-worlder? Your signal drifted for a moment. No matter. A thought occurs. When the Sardaukar began their purge, many Fremen were slaughtered. The ones that were not abandoned their caves, leaving valuable resources behind.
Sandstorm is approaching.
Valuable resources that just might contain the makings of a still suit. Take what you need. Their ghosts will not object.
Though I only got a small taste of what Dune Awakening has to offer, it was enough of a glimpse at the take Funcom has on this franchise to make it an intriguing, delightfully fun tease, whether you're a fan of the Denis Villeneuve movies, which the game owes a lot in terms of designs to, or the books. Ultimately, Dune Awakening promises to be a must-play experience for any fan of survival games, MMOs, or just the Dune world.